Rank Season 2 will receive the reward. Okay. Matchmaking. Uncertainty was reset again. Silver and Gold League population sizes have been adjusted and will now contain similar amounts of players. So Silver was the largest league. The stats they released at BlizzCon, Silver was like 35% of the player base or something. Now apparently they're shifting the MMR that Silver and Gold means, which means Silver and Gold. Either Silver got smaller and Gold got bigger, or just Gold got bigger, but either way, it's going to be more of like a fat end. Maybe that'll make being Diamond more significant. Who knows? Ragnar's is coming out. We'll show you guys Ragnar's in try mode later. I'll explain why he's busted. Haunted Mines is back. After driving the living room out of the Haunted Mines a little redecorating, the Grave Keepers reopen the mines to all who wish to summon powerful and destructive grave golems. The Haunted Mines will periodically open with an undead army underneath, so same thing. Destroy the undead and collect their skulls to summon a powerful golem. The more skulls each team collects, the stronger their golem becomes. Unleash the golems. After the undead have been defeated, a golem will rise for each team and travel down the lane in search of structures to destroy. Changes. Grave golems will now spawn in fixed positions in each lane and switch lanes. That's kind of like the BOE solution. That's not a great solution, honestly. The same problems that existed with the map will still exist. The same problems that exist on BOE, for instance, will still exist. The layout of the underground mines has been reworked, and the neutral grave golem can now be found at its center. Okay, I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or not. The upper level center area has been reworked. Additional mine entrances have been placed to the east and west of the battleground center area for a total of 4. Could be interesting. A mercenary camp has been placed near each entrance, featuring siege giants to the east and sappers, like the sappers from Towers of Doom. So we get the exploding bodies on the buildings. That's not good, because the whole problem with Haunted Mines is that there aren't enough buildings to justify the amount of damage that the golems are doing. So sappers are just going to make that worse. Hey, new type. I'm doing pretty good today. How about you? Art, heroes and abilities. The following heroes have received visual updates to conserve the roots: Artanis, Dahaka, and Diablo. Excited to get to those patch notes. And Particle Grenade and Pyroblast got changed for Zarya. Something about the timing because of the animations. Okay. Well, I guess we'll get to that. Bundles, don't care. New fall mounts. Oh, the Champions mount for 2016. I get to finally buy a Ballistics mount. I'm happy about that. And Sylvanas had a price reduction. Okay. User interface. We can now view the leaderboards inside the game client. That's a good change. I mean, we're gonna have to play the map to be sure. KY, cool. We just gotta play the map, see how it's designed. It could just be a shitty map. They might have like put all this work into it, and the map's still bad. That wouldn't be the first time that's happened. Hero and role chat links. Press Shift and click a hero portrait or a hero role icon during here. Select or in draft lobby, add a link to that hero role in the chat. Clicking a hero role or link in chat will automatically filter players' heroes list accordingly. Alternatively, type a hero name or role in square brackets to create chat links. For example, typing Jaina into the chat box will create a link to Jaina in Hero Select. However, the spelling must be exact or the link will not work. These hero and role links can be used to suggest picks in bans and draft lobbies. Clicking a hero or role chat link will view in the shop will also, okay. Penalties for leaving games. Much like Hero League, players who repeatedly leave unranked drafts and Team League games or draft lobbies will not be flagged to receive leaver penalties. Players with active penalties for leaving games can no longer queue for unranked draft. So you can't just use unranked draft as a way to get rid of leaver anymore, which is silly. Press tab at any point during MVP combination sequence to view the in-game score screen for that match. A skip button has been replaced with the exit button. Checking skip will immediately go to the voting thing, and then you can still leave. Okay. That's actually a good update. Design and gameplay. Unrevealable heroes. For periods of time when a hero is considered unrevealable, they will no longer show a shimmer like other stealth heroes. I always had a really hard time spotting the shimmer. It's just not something I've been really good at. It's not usually too big an issue. I realized I was kind of bad at it when I was doing the the Nova Brawl. But that's an interesting change. It's like a small buff for some heroes who are unrevealable, like Samuro. Heroes Brawl. Healing fountains will now be invulnerable when these brawls return to the Nexus. Okay. I honestly didn't tap that often in the brawls. Usually by the time I was low, I was either dead or I was so far away from the fountain that it was actually faster to hearth, because hearthing gets you full instantly. So I never even like cheesed the fountains in any of the brawls. That was just not something I did. Initial Zergling spawn increased from 3 to 6 Zerglings. That's a buff to people who fail to get the thing, but it doesn't really matter. If you're facing down a 100 to 0 Zerg wave, you're still facing down a 100 to 0 Zerg wave. You have one person on the lane to clear. It's kind of silly. Warheads. Base damage reduced from 2750 to 2300. Warhead damage now scales by a flat 70 every minute and no longer has a jump at 18 minutes. Inner warhead damage is still a 50% bonus. It's actually significant, although the problems with that map will not be fixed with that change. Chromie. Didn't realize Chromie was getting any changes. Time Walker, trait. Increase the level reduction from getting talents from 1 to 2 levels. Holy shit, that's huge. That's actually enormous. So 1 level wasn't that big a deal, honestly. In most cases, it was like, whatever. But with Temporal Loop coming online at level 8 instead of level 9, you're going to be in a position where if you're on a map like Infernal Shrines or Cursed Hollow, where there's a guaranteed objective in that span of time, you're going to be able to like just one-shot someone at the start of that fight, making it a 5v4, and then they have to back off. And if you do that, you're not only going to win that objective, you're going to win the race to 10 off the back of that bonus experience from that kill. Like, if you're a good Chromie, that's actually terrifying. But it's only going to work if you can get that kill. And with Ariel being a really popular support, Chromie is now going to be kind of a hard counter to Ariel, because Ariel can't do anything about that, right? She can't take cleanse. So if you have a team that picks like Ariel Vala, you just last pick Chromie. And then you kill Vala, like, at level 8. Seems good. Time Walker's Pursuit, active. Added functionality. You can also activate this talent to reveal an area for 2 seconds. Enemies seen are revealed for 4 seconds. Peer into the future, removed. Okay, so they gave Time Walker's Pursuit a reason to be taken by combining it with another talent that also should never have been taken. Seems good. Kilvas. This also makes Chromie better in coordinated environments, because in a coordinated environment, you're going to be able to take advantage of that little spike. Kelthos. Cast time reduced from 2 to 1.5 seconds. That's actually a big change. Cast range increased by roughly 30%. So, I don't know how many people have actually taken Pyroblast, but if a target gets out of cast range while it's casting, it cancels. It just stops. So, increasing the cast range actually makes it more likely to go off, which is hugely significant, because if you're using against a hero who doesn't have a displacement or or some sort of invulnerability frame, some way that they can, juke the thing, it's gonna kill them. Like if you cast that on Chromie, for instance, she's just gonna die. Maybe she can buy it. She could take Ice Block, her version of Ice Block. I don't remember the name. Shifting through time, phasing through time, at 13, or I guess 11 now. But in certain situations, this makes Pyroblast actually like viable, because it is just going to kill certain heroes. Support. Crown visual effect can now be seen by allies. It's a nice update for Ariel. Everyone's been asking for that for a while. They changed Rhaegar. I don't want to look. Increased basic attack damage. That's not what he needed, but okay. Lightning Shield increase. That's significant. Lightning Shield build was already the highest win rate. So Rhaegar Illidan is like a deadly combination, because meta plus Ancestral Healing is busted. You can Ancestral and then he metas and it's guaranteed to land, right? But the Lightning Shield build, the old school Lightning Shield build that's got nerfed to shit, is still actually good with certain heroes. Those heroes are Johanna, Fat Illidan, and Illidan. Basically, if a hero is relatively low damage but has a really strong ability to stick next to someone, it's good. It's just a good build because the amount of damage that Lightning Shield does will help secure otherwise marginal kills. And Illidan's the best reason for that build to exist, but since Illidan pairs with Rhaegar so well already, it's like, well, that's pretty good. Bloodlust, added functionality. All affected allies now have your 30% basic attack damage dealt during Bloodlust. That was the level 20 upgrade, so I'm curious to see what they did to that. Stormcaller. Now returns mana from hitting all enemies, not just heroes. That's actually pretty good. And they didn't change the amount. So Stormcaller was a strict trap. It was like, you never take Stormcaller. Now returns mana from hitting all enemies is going to make it really good on maps where Rhaegar's drafted because he has the best wave clear, or maybe second best wave clear, depends, of any support. So with like Lightning Bond on Shrines, you're going to be able to cast Lightning Shield on cooldown for free. On Tomb of the Spider Queen, it's going to be a pretty similar dynamic. On Battlefield of Eternity, it won't be as good because you're only hitting the Immortal. But, you know, again, another map where you go Rhaegar for Lightning Bond because he's a support that does significant damage to the Immortal. Rhaegar got pretty buffed, actually, so far. But he's not going to be like a first pick material, but he's going to have a place in specific drafts, and he's still going to be the best Illidan support. Totemic Projection, added functionality. Now also increases the duration of Earthbind Totem from 8 to 12 seconds. That doesn't matter. People just kill the totem. Farseer's Blessing. Secondary healing effect increased by 25% to 50% of ancestral healing. Holy shit. Alright. For anyone who's ever done the math on Farseer's Blessing is worse than Storm Shield. Like if you just do the math, Farseer's Blessing was strictly worse than Storm Shield. There was one circumstance only, where Farseer's Blessing was even close to being comparable to Storm Shield. And that was when you were running a tank that could take Amplified Healing. They took Amplified Healing, and everyone grouped up on that tank. The immediate scenario that should jump to everyone's mind here is Tyrael, because if everyone's grouped up in a small space, Sanctification's really good, and Tyrael has Amplified Healing. The initial amount that it heals on the target is what gets spread to everyone else that's adjacent to that target. Farseer's Blessing, you Ancestral a target, 50% of the amount that they get healed for is healed to everyone in a relatively small range. Everyone in your party. If you're going for some kind of all melee comp, and you have Sanctification plus Farseer's Blessing on an amplified healing Tyrael, that will restore, like, literally if someone's near death and you Ancestral Tyrael, it will restore the health to Tyrael like 100, like 10% to 100. And it will also just heal everyone around him basically for full health unless they're also tanks. There's a couple of gimmicky all melee comps that exist in the game. So Farseer's Blessing has like a weird niche now of maybe being viable. Because with the 25% buff, it's possible that you don't even need the amplified healing part for that idea to be good. It's still probably worse than Storm Shield. Gladiator's Warshot now increases Bloodlust healing from 30 to 60% of basic attack damage. Okay. So Bloodlust is a little bit better. It's been a while since Rhaegar was a major dominant force, and its performance is now low enough that we can safely increase the rewards for his aggressive playstyle without pushing his win rate too high. Yeah, this doesn't actually do anything, by the way. None of these changes do anything to reward an aggressive playstyle on Rhaegar. The reason Rhaegar's aggressive playstyle went to shit was because of the mount speed changes and the lack of self-cast Ancestral. It was those, like the combination of those two things, because you can't go in as a melee hero and do anything if you don't have a way of getting it back out or some sort of self-sustain. So you can heal yourself once with Q. That's it. Your wolf form isn't like good enough. So good Rhaegars will still play like backline and only go in if like their tank has already absorbed a shitload of cooldowns. Artanis, Blade Dash, added functionality. Now reduces the cooldown of shield overload by 1 second per enemy hit and 2 seconds per hero hit. So they rolled in Psionic Synergy into a baseline version of Blade Dash. That's a pretty big buff. More damage seems like a good reward to me. Doesn't help heals, but a definite reward for going in. without being able to self-cast Ancestral and without having mobility, if you go in, the correct response for the enemy team is to kill you. Just, oh, Rhaegar overextended. Kill him. He's dead. Now we are fighting a 5v4 when the enemy team doesn't have a support. That won't happen at lower leagues, but I guarantee you that happens at higher leagues all the time when Rhaegar's overextend using Bite. And if anything, giving him more damage is going to be like, yeah, I do more damage, I should go in, and then you just die. It's going to bait people into playing badly, which, I mean, lots of things bait people into playing badly. It's not a big deal. Twin Blades. Charge range is now checked against the edge of target units instead of their center. This increases the effective range of Twin Blades and should generally create more consistent behavior. That bugged the shit out of me, for the record. For those of you who don't know, Twin Blades, the built-in Zealot charge used to check based on the center of the hitbox, not the edge. So you literally could not W in Azmodan. Azmodan's hitbox is so big that it would try and check the center, and you would be out of range. So you literally could never W Azmodan. It was buggy as fuck. Anyway, that was really annoying. So that's actually a huge buff, because not only does that technically increase the range, it also just makes the ability a lot more consistent, which is a huge deal, because it's the main thing he does, is stick to a target. Phase Prism. Added functionality. You can now cast Phase Prism during Blade Dash. This accidentally got put on the last PTR, and I played with it. It's really cool. Shield Overload. Trait. Cooldown increase from 20 to 24 seconds. That's still a net buff. Activation threshold from 50 to 75% health. What the fuck? Shield value reduced from 449 to 360. Oh my god. Oh my god. Dude, that's a massive Artanis buff. 75% instead of 50%? The amount of buffer time that gives him if he fails to get his shield recharge off in time is enormous. Artanis is going to get even better at 3v1ing teams. That's really scary. Shield Surge trait. Move from level 16. Shield Overload's shield amount is increased by 80% while you are below 25% health. Decent. Lethal Alacrity was removed. That sucks. Lethal Alacrity was one of his best talents. Shield Battery trait redesigned. Shield Overload's cooldown recharges 50% faster while its shield is active and increases the duration of shield overload from 5 to 6 seconds. So if you keep it active, if you keep your shields active 100% of the time, the shield overload's cooldown is 12 seconds. Is that reasonable? Shield Battery just went from the Homeless Slayer strat down to actually good. Shield Battery was actually already a good talent. Shield Battery is actually one of Artanis' most powerful talents. The only people who didn't know that were people who didn't play Artanis very much. The funny thing about Shield Battery that a lot of people don't realize is the way it used to work. It didn't matter if it was the initial shield. It only mattered that you had shields. So if you were consistently resetting your shield and stacking your old shield on top of your new shield, you just got a flat 8-second reduction to shield overload. So in the late game, Shield Battery actually gave you permanent shields. You literally could not lose them. And that shield had, the bonus surge from 16, the spell shield from 13. Which means you were taking 50% less magic damage 100% of the time, and it didn't matter if you were stunned out, it didn't matter how much damage the enemy put on you, they literally could not get through that shield in most cases. So you just had a flat 8-second reduction to Shield Battery. Shield Battery was a god tier talent. It also allowed you to do mercenary camps without taking any damage. I would actually occasionally take Artanis on Blackheart's Bay, and I would go Amateur Opponent and Shield Battery, and I would stay at 50% life the entire time I was merking, but I would never go below 50% life, because the Shield Battery would constantly reduce the cooldown enough that I was fine. Shield Battery was actually a really good talent. That's what you get for testing mechanics. This version is actually worse. But it's a good talent. It's just worse than what it was before. Psionics Energy, moved from level 7, now increases the cooldown reduction of hitting heroes with Blade Dash from 2 to 4 seconds. It's fine. Psionics Energy actually, honestly, was not that good a talent. A lot of people play Artanis really badly. Psionics Energy was one of those talents. It's okay, but it's not actually that good. Chrono Surge moved from level 4. Attack speed bonus increased from 40 to 50%. It's pretty decent. Hey, Stronku. Oh, that's true, Senkus. You're right. It's 16 seconds. 50% faster doesn't mean 50 seconds on CD. Math is sometimes hard. Level 13, Templar Zeal. Moved from level 4. Templar Zeal, I actually genuinely thought Templar Zeal was always a bad talent, and I haven't changed that opinion. Moving it from level 4 to level 13 makes it worse, not better, because it's still just like not a good talent. Phase Bulwark, ability damage mitigation reduced from 50 to 40%. So they nerfed Phase Bulwark. That kind of feels bad. Burning Rage, passive, moved from level 13, replaced with Plasma Burn, trait. While your shield is active, you'll do 50 damage a second to nearby enemies. That doesn't seem good. The goals of this Artanis update were twofold. Increases playmaking, swapping enemies during Blade Dash, and increases solo laning capabilities. Blade Dash reduces shield overload cooldown, shield overload triggers of higher health. We think that these changes, Artanis will be a strong choice along more battlegrounds. Actually, that's a good point. If you could draft Artanis as a solo laner, he would actually be a much more viable hero. Currently, in the current meta, most of the solo laners are bruisers. If you think about it, Thrall, god tier solo laner, is generally the second melee in a comp, bruiser. Chen, Alarak, I know I'm missing an important one. Leoric is played a lot in high-level play as a solo laner. If Artanis could be a solo laner, Dahaka, solo laner. Like there's like 7 or 8 bruisers that are also solo laners, and those bruisers get drafted more than any of the other ones because they can solo lane. There's like 17 or 18, maybe 20 heroes in the game that could be considered secondary melee, but none of them, like Kerrigan, but they're not solo laners. They like can't solo lane. So if you create a bruiser who can solo lane, then that bruiser is a lot more viable in a variety of drafts. All right. Before I read the Dahaka changes, I want to remind everyone that what Blizzard said was that they were going to rework Dahaka to be a solo main tank that is in the same realm as ETC, Muradin, and Johanna. That's what they promised. That's what they promised. Before we get into these notes, I just want to remind everyone. Brush Talker trait. Cooldown increased. Okay. They nerfed the only good thing about it, Dahaka. Functionality added. Dahaka gains 50% movement speed while in a bush and for 1 second after exiting a bush. So they made part of his level 13 baseline. Okay. Burrow. Functionality added. Burrow can now be cancelled early by pressing the hotkey again. Seems good. Adaptation. Heal amount increased from 60 to 100% of incoming damage. That is his level 10 heroic that no one takes. I shouldn't say no one. It does occasionally get picked up. Talents, level 1, Enduring Swarm. New functionality. Dahaka takes 40% less damage from abilities while Dark Swarm is active. That's decent. Instead of 2 charges, it's 40% less across the board. As long as they didn't change Symbiosis, that could be good. Enhanced Agility, new functionality. For every 50 essence you collect, increase your Brush Talker movement speed bonus by 1%. This can stack 10 times. That's trash. That's like actually worse. Enhanced Agility was an okay talent by itself. Enhanced Agility, I'm comfortable saying this, Enhanced Agility is now strictly a trap. You just should never take Enhanced Agility. Lurker Strain, functionality added. Emerging from Burrow knocks away enemies and slows their movement speed by 30% for 2 seconds. So they combined Numbing Eruption and Lurker Strain and removed Numbing Eruption. It's pretty good. It's more than decent. It has 100% uptime with Symbiosis. The thing is, if you're up against mage teams, they're going to tend to be kind of ranged heavy. So yes, you have 100% uptime with Symbiosis, but at the same time, you still don't have a gap closer. You have no way of getting on top of the mage, so all you're doing is soaking damage. Nothing wrong with soaking damage, but you're also giving up Primal Aggression, and Primal Aggression is literally 100% of the reason to draft a Dahaka in the competitive meta right now. Like, that's not an exaggeration. If Primal Aggression were not a talent, Dahaka, the play you guys have been seeing from Dahaka, and the play that Dahaka has gotten in China for the last, 6 months, would not have happened. Primal Aggression is literally the only reason that Dahaka gets drafted right now, because of the level of wave clear it gets him. So it's a decent talent, but it's competing with Primal Aggression, which means it will never get taken. At least not in the competitive meta. A lot of things I say, I'm referring to either high-level Hero League or like pro teams, because that's what I spend 90% of my time looking at. This gives Dahaka a ghetto version of Face Melt, for the record. It gives them a slow and a knockback on his E, which means he potentially has Peel. And giving up Hero Stalker or 100 Collects isn't that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. That's kind of significant. Level 13, Swift Pursuit. New functionality. Brush Stalker's movement speed duration after leaving a bush is increased from 1 to 3 seconds. That's a reasonable talent. Ferocious Stalker. New functionality. After using Brush Stalker, increase all damage Dahaka deals by 25% for 10 seconds. So that's now an amazing gank talent. On some maps, you're still ganking at 13, especially if you go for globals. Like Dragonshire, everyone has to split up at some point to get the objectives. Or you have a global and you're split pushing. There's nothing they can do about it because you're always locking down on one of the altars. So on some maps, Ferocious Stalker's gank ability is actually going to matter. It's going to be a viable talent. It's going to be situational but viable. Whirling Dervish was removed. New talent, Primal Swarm. Enemies affected by Darkstorm take 15% increased damage from all sources. That's busted. Holy shit. So Symbiosis wasn't changed, guys. If you have a comp, if you're up against a comp where Symbiosis is 100% uptime, which isn't difficult, it's really just 2 heroes, Primal Swarm is a ridiculously strong talent. I'm thinking about blow-up comps. Like, imagine this. Imagine Dahaka Varian with Colossus Smash. And you have Varian just Colossus Smash, charge in, get the stun. Dahaka literally walks up to them, tongues them, which is guaranteed to land because of the other stun, right? They're immobilized for a second. And then you have Darkstorm on them, and then Jaina just drops her Blizzard. That's a dead person. Like, they're just dead. It's actually a pretty big buff for Dahaka. Rapid Regeneration removed. That's good. It wasn't a good negative talent. Tunneling Claws. Dahaka can now move while burrowed. If he can move at full speed while burrowed, that's a pretty crazy talent, honestly. Although burrow is still only 2 seconds. Change is survival. Heal amount increased from 125 to 200%. Becoming a hardened shield was removed. That kind of sucks. Webknots, thank you for the follow. New talent, Essence Claws, passive. Basic attacks slow enemies by 20% for 1 second. Basic attacks against enemy heroes grant Dahaka 5 Essence. That doesn't seem good. And the reason that doesn't seem good is because I'm not seeing anything in these notes that talk about his heals not stacking. Those of you who don't play a lot of Dahaka, if you have Essence and you hit your D, you get a heal over time. If you get some Essence and then hit your D again, the tiny heal that you're getting from that smaller amount of Essence overwrites the big heal that you just got. It doesn't stack up. So if you're in trouble and hitting someone, and you have pop your D, and then you keep hitting them, you can't just like hit your D again to get more healing. So, is that better than Apex Predator? Probably not. Hardened Shield was definitely better than Apex Predator if you were getting focused, but Hardened Shield is gone. Like, Dahaka's now better. Dahaka's like crazy better. Dahaka's a lot better right now. But is he a solo tank? Not so much. Not so much. And we have more evidence that Blizzard really doesn't understand what it means to have a solo tank. At least in high level play. You always gotta make this distinction. When focus fire is good, a tank either needs massive survivability or an escape, or both. Like they need that. Johanna has Iron Skin, which is like crazy good. She has a slow and she has a blind, which can save her bacon like over and over and over again. Plus, standard talent right now is a Holy Renewal, so at 16 she has a self heal. She has a clicky heal on command in Laws of Hope, which you'll almost always see taken at the high end of play. Although sometimes it's a mistake. Sometimes there's double support comes with the Johanna. You should take amplified. And EDC has Power Slide out. Murden has Dwarf Toss out. And you don't see the other tanks. You just don't see them. Dahaka still doesn't have an escape. And he doesn't have massive mitigation. I'm kind of wondering if the new E talent at 4 plus Burrowing Claws is going to be good enough. Because it's going to give you stealth. You're going to have a knockback. It's going to slow them. And you could be able to like adjust your positioning to knock them away from you so you can run. It's going to be interesting. I don't think he's a solo tank. I could be wrong. I'm going to have to play him a lot on PTR. Just have to see. Is Artanis a solo tank now? No, Artanis is not a solo tank. Well, I mean, I'll play him. Looking at the patch notes, my answer is no. But it depends on how his numbers work out in a lot of ways. He still doesn't have like great peel. And that's like always a factor. Diablo, Shadow Charge, base damage decreased, not good. New functionality, Diablo gains 25% resistant for 2 seconds after charging. That's a buff. That talent was already good, so making it baseline is obviously good. Diablo's target collides with terrain, they take an additional 150 damage. Okay, that's a buff for good Diablos. It's also a buff for Leoric Diablo and TAS Diablo compositions. It should be a buff for Nazeebo, but I don't think they fixed that yet. Firestomp. Base damage from one... They reduce the base damage. Okay. For the record, Firestomp plus the 2 talents at 4 and 13 were the reason to play Diablo. Like, any changes to Firestomp make it possible that Diablo is actually just not playable. It's going to come down to the talent rework, but I'm just looking at the patch notes. This is my first impression. I'm very hesitant that they fuck Diablo up. Base damage from 106 to 60, added functionality. So they gave him the 13 talent baseline, but reduced the overall damage. That gives him better early game, which is a factor. Bonus max health per soul stone increased from 0.2 to 0.4%. Hopefully they fix the overlay for it. That's a buff. The problem with just straight health buffs is that there's no percentage-based healing in the game, or very little percentage-based healing in the game. So just having a big health pool doesn't actually make you tanky. You need regeneration to be really tanky, and Diablo's regeneration talent isn't good. It's taken a lot because it's the only thing he has, but it's not good. Block was removed. Devil's Dew, passive, new functionality. Regeneration globes and healing fountains are 2% more effective for every stack of Black Soulstone. That's actually cool. That gives him some lane sustain, which is something he desperately, desperately lacked. Overwhelming Force was removed. That sucks. Overwhelming Force was a good talent. New talent, Bulwark. Increase the duration of Shadow Charge resistance effect from 2 to 5 seconds. That's pretty good. Life Leech passive, moved from level 13. Life Leech is just a bad talent. The numbers aren't high enough. It was trash for a 13 talent. Maybe it's good enough at level 1. I kind of doubt it. More balance changes to go live on Wednesday. Did I need to review 2 patch notes? Demonic Strength. E. Slow duration increased from 2 to 3 seconds. Slow amount increased from 25 to 30%. Is Fire Devil still in this tier? I don't see it, so I assume it's still in this tier, which means every other talent in this tier is still bad, because Fire Devil is literally one of the reasons you play Diablo. Soul Catcher removed. Essence of the Slain removed. Essence of the Slain could have been buffed to be in line with Field Tune to Death from the Orc, and it would have been good. New talent, Speed Demon, passive. Diablo gains 30% movement speed for 5 seconds after being stunned or rooted. That kind of gives him an anti-CC mechanic. From the Shadows, moved from level 7. Functionality added. Also increases Shadow Charge range by 33%. Oh, so they didn't remove Overwhelming Force completely. They just rolled it into another talent. That's nice. Fire Devil's 13. No, the one Firestorm was 13. The one that caused the things to come back, but they rolled that into the base. Fire Devil was the level 4 talent that gave him Burning Rage, essentially, but at level 4. Man, From the Shadows is actually a really good talent. That's actually pretty... and Speed Demon is actually pretty nuts. From the Shadows is pretty good, too. Oh, they moved it to 13? Oh, that sucks. Alright, well that means these talents are actually viable. Diabolical Momentum, functionality change, basic attacks now lower the cooldown of Shadow Charge and Overpower by 1.5 seconds. So, no more W cooldowns. That's reasonable. It does make it a little bit worse. Soul Steal removed. Devastating Charge, moved from level 7 to level 13. Functionality change, Shadow Charge, an enemy into an unpathable terrain deals an additional 5% of that target's max health and damage. So it's percentage based. Okay. Quest, every time you charge an enemy into an unpathable terrain, increase the bonus damage by 2%, stacking up to a 10% bonus. So 15% of their health as an engage mechanic, if you can consistently stun them. That's really good. Diablo's always been considered the premier gank tank. Whether or not he was actually good at ganking was not the point. Blizzard's idea behind him was always, we want him to be the best tank at ganking people. That's what we want. So, giving him burst damage like that, it's good. New talent, Soul Shield. Each Black Soulstone stack Diablo grants 0.35 resistance to enemy abilities. So 100 souls, he has 35% resistant all the time? And that's a level 7 talent? That's pretty good. It's, 35% magic damage resistance all the time. It's pretty good. That talent is actually nuts. Like, what the fuck? Okay. Soul Feast, passive. Move from level 1, new functionality. Each Soulstone grants 0.04 health regeneration. See, this is what I was talking about. Soul Feast at level 1 was, like, not a good talent, but it was the only thing he had. Now it's... Let me just time Melvin out here. There we go. It's really important if you're going to be a troll in a chat, by the way, not to come in and immediately do the troll thing. You gotta introduce yourself to the community, play nice, make people think that maybe you're not a troll, and then everything you say, there's some doubt, right? Is this person actually trolling? Being a good troll is hard work. It's not just coming into a chat and like being an idiot. That's not how good trolling works. They were playing with the idea of baseline resistance. This might be a let's see what happens mission. Maybe. We'll have to see. Firestorm removed. Spell Shield removed. Siphon the Dead removed. Siphon the Dead is actually an okay talent. Hellfire. Each enemy hero hit by Firestomp increases the damage of the next Firestomp by 10%, stacking up to 100%. Does it continue to stack every time you W? Or is it like Uther's Blessed Radiance talent, where it's like there's a rolling amount? Something attached. Fire Devil, W. Move from level 4. An aura damage increase from 17 to 22. Added functionality. Also increases Diablo's basic attack damage by 25% for 6 seconds. Firestomp has a 6-second cooldown, so that just basically reads Diablo's basic attack damage is increased by 25%. Time to rewrite all your guides? Not all of them. Just the Haka, Diablo. And I never did the Artanis guide because I knew the changes were coming. So I'm rewriting 2 guides. It's not that bad. Level 16, Rampage, removed. Continuous Overpower, removed. It continues to stack as long as your Firestomp hits a hero. If not, it resets. That's still really good. Domination, new functionality. Lower the cooldown of Overpower by 4 seconds. Using Overpower refreshes the cooldown of Shadow Charge. That's much better than it was, and Domination was already a good talent. They are moved Imposing Presence. Okay. New talent, Fearful Presence. Passive and inactive. Heroes and summons that attack Diablo have their attack speed slowed by 25% for 2.5 seconds. Activate to reduce the damage dealt by nearby heroes by 30% for 3 seconds. So not just like attack damage, but like all damage. Wow, Diablo's pretty fucking nuts. Both of the Storm removed, of course. Where can we find your guides? Exactly. So for the people who aren't reading chat, the old school combo for domination was you shadow charge into them, you overpowered, and you shadow charge them back into your team. It's kind of like a ghetto hook. New talent, Hellgate. Activate to teleport a short distance and place a demonic rune on that location. After 1.75 seconds, the rune explodes, dealing 137 damage and stuns enemies for 1.75 seconds. Shit. It's pretty good. If you check out... Here, I'll link to you guys. If you check out my tank guide, my Art of the Tank guide has links to every other guide I've done. Because it rates the tanks. So I'm going to have to redo Dahaka and Diablo. God, that's going to require a lot of reevaluation. That's going to suck. Okay, it's alright. Particle Grenade. This ability has received improvements to its cast animation. The time between casting Particle Grenade and performing another action has been reduced by 0.25 seconds. It's actually significant. It used to be that below a certain energy, it just wasn't worth grenading because of the amount of time you'd lost auto-attacking. That number will now have changed. Threat Sword. Not good. Brax's holdout. XP awarded for destroying the Archangel now correctly scales over the course of the game. Okay. Fix an issue that prevented Chen from regenerating health while using Wandering Keg. That's actually significant. Illidan quest progress icons no longer continue to appear. Camera will now probably follow the Auric. Den Morales. Fixed a rare to the Cosmo. Control of the hero. Samuro. Thrall. Infest will not properly grant bonus attack damage to minions for siege damage dealt. Okay. And as a special bonus, there's also balance changes coming on Wednesday that will not be on PTR. I lost the link. There it is. We will also go over those since PTR is not yet up.